nowadays. I used to be one of them. I've recently stopped. It's been, for me, around, let's see, like almost 6 months now that I haven't been smoking weed. And it honestly is just, it's so incredible. And I was one of those weed smokers that would just wake up and hit the yard, hit the cart, hit the pen every day in the morning as I wake up and throughout the whole day. And a bunch of other stuff mixed in there as well. Um, it's just really not good for you, especially as a developing brain. I'm sure I have dropped some IQ points from using that way too much and other stuff as well, which I'll get into eventually in another video, something like that. Um, but it's just not good for you. The one thing I really noticed, and looking back on it, I can tell that it does after noticing the benefits, was motivation for sure. And that's such like a trope and like such a stereotype is like, oh, weed makes you lazy and unmotivated. And like for me, that was definitely the case. I can't speak for everyone, but it absolutely was for me. The one thing that you notice or like you can draw patterns from is when you're smoking weed, it makes you comfortable in a place in your life when you shouldn't be comfortable. And that's why that's the most dangerous part of it because you have other drugs like meth and all the crazy street drugs stuff like that. Um, those are a lot more fast acting in terms of how it ruins your life. It will ruin your life in 2 3 years probably, unless you really got your head on together in part of your life. But eventually it will destroy you. I think the thing with weed is that, especially in culture today, it's I wouldn't say it's promoted, but you see it so much in culture today how it's harmless and how it's just a purely recreational thing. And some people can handle it and some people can't, but when the people that can't handle it see that people can and see that it's promoted as just something akin to how alcohol is promoted in today's culture, that is super dangerous for those kinds of people because they'll constantly be making excuses to themselves that they can keep using it, and that's the voice in their head every time they keep using it is, oh, it's not a problem, oh, it's not a problem, oh, it's not a problem, for times and times out of the day, out of the week, out of the month, out of the year, out of the decade even. For some people, I used marijuana for like 7 years. I started when I was 16. um, so it's just really it's not healthy, especially for teenagers. If you're a grown adult and you decide to start smoking marijuana and you have your life together and you're able to use it in a responsible manner, I'm sure that's completely fine. There's people that do that. But when there are people that do that, like I just said, the kids will interpret that as, oh, I can do it too. Oh, it's safe. Oh, it's not harmful. Oh, it's not meth. Oh, it's not heroin. Um, and obviously that's true. But I think marijuana is a lot more stealthy in the way that it ruins your life. It will keep you complacent for a long time, especially if you start using it when you're young, when you're early 20s, possibly even going into 30. You're using it every single day. You're complacent. That's your source of dopamine. That's your source of, it hijacks your brain's accomplishment. It's kind of how I feel it, what I feel it does. It makes you feel a lot smarter than you really are. Like something that is hilarious. Like, I used to smoke weed and play video games all the time, like competitive video games. And like you think you're doing so good while you're just super high. You think you're doing so good in these games. And then you look at your stats and you're just like doing horrifically. It's really weird the way that it tweaks with your brain. And obviously, some people can gain value out of different aspects of it, like in the creative sense, which I personally don't think it's true. Like, I like to think of myself as a creative person. Like, I create memes on the internet that has been fairly successful. Um, but I think it just gives you the facade of you doing something better than you actually are doing it, or that you're having insightful thoughts when in reality you're just thinking of traffic lights. That's something that has actually happened to me. Um, it's very weird. Um, I think if it should be used, it should be used as something like psychedelics, where you use them very few and far between, and you use it to really dig deep within your own mind and have a transformative experience. Granted, some people can't do that based upon like genetic factors. I can't do that. Like my aunt is schizophrenic, so I've done stuff like that in the past when I was younger, but you know, I'm too scared to do that now just because I want to keep my brain somewhat intact as much as it already is. Um, you know, another thing that you hear a lot from older people that talk against weed is that it is stronger than it is today. That it is stronger today than it was in the past, which is just like undoubtedly true. Just because of the way that they manufacture it and the way that they breed it, they're always breeding it for the highest THC content. It The memory issues are a real thing for sure. I'm sure no one can deny this. And that's something that I kind of value the most. Short-term memory, especially like when you're in the middle of a conversation, you just forget what the fuck you were talking about. And that's probably why I have to keep doing cuts in these damn videos. And I hope to get better at that, where I can just free flow riff and stuff like that off of what I'm talking about. It's so funny because the stoner archetype, all the lazy hang around playing video games, like that's such a real thing, especially in today's society, given the fact that there are so many distractions for young kids and just people in general. Like you have social media, if that's not used in a responsible or productive manner, that just is absolutely debilitating. You have video games, if that's not used in a responsible or productive manner, that's just debilitating. And then you combine all these things with marijuana, and that just makes it magnitudes worse because because marijuana just like gives you dopamine, which is so funny because people say that it's non-addictive, and it really is addictive. It absolutely is addictive because it makes your dopamine receptors more sensitive. You, it doesn't like give you dopamine directly like methamphetamine does or other substances do, but it makes you more sensitive to dopamine, which is why it is so fun to play video games. It's so fun to fucking whack off all that crazy shit that is just completely fruitless, unproductive, waste of time activities. So that's what I mean, where you'll be distracted with all that, and it makes you comfortable in a place in your life where you shouldn't be comfortable. The combination with all those things will just fast forward you in time 15 years. Obviously, I don't have that experience. It fast forwarded me in time half of that, but thankfully, I am super thankful that I kind of caught on to that. And what's kind of unfortunate about that too, because kids are always going to do what their parents don't tell them to do. So you can have good parents, although maybe a little tyrannical, that tell you not to do these things or really enforce you not to do these things. But at the end of the day, kids are only going to learn themselves through experience. And some kids are really buttoned up do-gooders. Yes, men. Not really. That's kind of offensive. Um, where they'll actually follow whatever their parents say, and they'll bring that into most of their life, and they're successful people or not. But a lot of other kids, it's based upon being a kid, they're rebellious. They're going to do what their parents tell them not to do, and they're going to experiment with things whether they enjoy them or not. Sometimes it's a one-off thing. Sometimes it will really open your mind up to different possibilities, and that's kind of what I want to get into now. Is like weed is genuinely a gateway drug. It absolutely is. Not for everyone, but if you have that kind of brain chemistry where you're super susceptible to being an addict, it's like my thought was like, okay, I have this experience that I hold so dearly to my heart that I can activate whenever I want with this cool little device that I can bring to school. I'm sure there's more out there because obviously you build up a tolerance. Obviously, it's not as enjoyable as much as you do it. Like at a certain point, like you smoke weed to feel normal, basically. You smoke weed to be able to eat, to be able to sleep, and to be able to just enjoy your daily life as little as you do. Um, and when I'm talking about this, I'm talking about the people that just smoke weed all the time because I was one of those people. Because I remember a thought switching in my mind when I first started smoking weed. Because the first whatever like 2 or 3 weeks, it was kind of like a side thing. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go hang out with my friends at their house. And we're just gonna mess around, play video games or whatever. And then we do this, so we smoke weed too. And then I remember thought flipping in my head where like, if I want this feeling, I have to go over to my friend's house to smoke weed. Like this is when I was really young, when I first started smoking. So that's when it completely flipped, where it was just a cascade of events, and it's a snowball effect. It really is because you'll get to the point where eventually you'll get your own devices or you'll get your own method of smoking weed, and if you're that kind of brain that likes those feelings, you're going to value those feelings over actual social connection. You're going to value those feelings over everything else in your life, and everything else is going to drop off: your grades, your social life, your sports life if you do sports, everything. Um, and again, I want to clarify that I'm talking about these really, the addict brain kind of people, because I don't know whether that is the way that you're I don't know if it's nature or nurture. I assume it's both, to be honest, because I have people in my family that are alcoholics, and I'm definitely prone to alcoholism for sure, or just really any substance abuse. um, but yeah, I don't know. Kind of the last question I want to ask here is, why has it been made so available in the past 5 years, 10 years? Um, there's one argument where it's the purely libertarian argument that people should be able to access whatever they want, which is great. Um, I just think maybe the age limit should be upped probably to 25 when your brain is actually fully developed, not 18 for a medical thing, and then 21, just like alcohol. Alcohol is its own thing, because there's plenty of overlap with what I'm saying about marijuana now and alcohol. Um, but there's always exceptions, and there's very, very large groups of exceptions when it comes to marijuana, because there's people with cancer that use it for pain relief. There's people with PTSD that use it for anxiety relief. But I really do think using it as a young person can absolutely like throw your life to the side, and it's not healthy. Uh, yeah, it sucks, because like I'll look at back on my life, because that was really what opened me up to all the other things I put myself through, all these other traumas I put myself through. Um, but I just want you guys to know that it's not a good thing to do. You should probably stop smoking weed. If you can use it responsibly, that's great. That's amazing. You could still have a productive life. You could still have family and friends, and not value this feeling over everything else. That's completely within your game to do. But I'm just kind of speaking to people that have the propensity to be addicts, because marijuana is addictive, and there are a lot of people today, a lot of young people, that deny the fact that they're addicted to marijuana, and they absolutely are. So that's what I want to say. Stop smoking weed if you're a young person.